Every week, I was throwing out bags of kitchen scraps just like this one. Banana peels, coffee grounds, veggie trimmings. All of it went straight to the landfill. It felt so wasteful, and let's not even talk about the smelly garbage can. I knew there had to be a better way to turn this trash into something useful. But when I first looked into composting, it all seemed so complicated. I figured it was only for people with huge yards, expensive tumblers, and a degree in soil science. I thought it meant dealing with awful smells, attracting pests, and spending money I didn't have on special gear. I was totally wrong. Then I stumbled on a method that changed everything. It's so simple and effective, it almost feels like a secret. Now, I turn all my food waste into beautiful, nutrient-rich black gold for my plants using nothing more than a single, free bucket. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do it, too. You don't need a yard, you won't have to spend a penny, and you will not believe how easy it is to create your own endless supply of amazing fertilizer. The zero-cost promise. Gathering your equipment before we start, let's talk about what you'll need. I want to really drive this point home. This is the zero-cost compost method. You shouldn't have to buy a single thing. First up, the star of the show, a bucket. We're talking about a standard 5-gallon bucket. The kind you see on construction sites or stacked up behind restaurants. And that's the best place to get one for free. Places like bakeries, delis, or restaurants get things like frosting or pickles in these food-grade buckets. Once they're empty, they're often just happy for you to take them off their hands. Just ask nicely. You might also find them at paint stores or construction sites, but if you go that route, give it a very thorough wash with soap and water. You'll want one that comes with a tight-fitting lid. This is key for keeping moisture in and pests out. Next, you need a way to make holes. If you have a drill, awesome. This will take you about 2 minutes. But if you don't, please don't go out and buy one. Remember the zero-cost rule. You can make perfectly good holes with a hammer and a sturdy nail. Just put a block of wood inside the bucket for support and carefully tap the nail through. Another option, if you do it carefully in a well-ventilated area, is to heat up an old screwdriver and melt the holes through the plastic. The goal is simple: create openings for air and water to move. And finally, the ingredients. This is where the magic really happens. In the composting world, you'll hear a lot about carbon to nitrogen ratios. It sounds complicated, so let's forget all that. We're just going to use 2 words, greens and browns. Think of it this way: greens are for go, and browns are for slow. Your greens are the nitrogen-rich stuff. They're usually wet and fresh, and they give the tiny organisms in your compost the fuel they need to get to work. This is basically all your kitchen waste. We're talking fruit and veggie scraps, apple cores, citrus rinds, even that onion you forgot about in the back of the fridge. Banana peels are amazing. They're loaded with potassium, which your future plants will love. Potato peels, carrot tops, tough broccoli stems, it all goes in. And don't forget your morning coffee. Coffee grounds are a green and act as a powerhouse activator for a compost pile. They're full of nitrogen, and worms absolutely love them. You can toss the paper filter in, too. Same for tea bags, just make sure to pull off any metal staples. One of my favorites is crushed eggshells. After you make breakfast, just rinse the shells, let them dry, and crush them up. They break down slowly, but they add a steady source of calcium to your finished compost, which is great for preventing problems like blossom end rot in tomatoes and peppers. So, to recap, your greens are fruit and veggie scraps, coffee grounds and filters, tea bags, and crushed eggshells. You can even add fresh grass clippings, but just use thin layers so they don't get slimy. Now, let's talk about the unsung hero of the compost pile, the browns. These are your carbon-rich materials. They're usually dry, and their main job is to give the pile structure and air. They create little air pockets that are essential for the good bacteria to breathe. If you only use greens, you'll get a slimy, stinky mess. Browns are what keep your bucket smelling earthy and fresh. They are the secret to no-smell composting. So what are they? The easiest source for most of us is cardboard and paper. All those delivery boxes? That's not trash, that's future black gold. Just shred it up. Junk mail, newspaper, avoid the glossy ads, paper towel tubes, toilet paper rolls, paper egg cartons, it's all fantastic carbon material. The only rule is to tear it into smaller pieces. The smaller they are, the faster they break down. If you have a yard, you have access to the king of browns, dry, fallen leaves. In the fall, don't bag them for the curb. Rake them up and store them. They are perfect for composting. Small twigs, straw, old dried up mulch, and even sawdust from untreated wood are all great browns. You can also add a little wood ash from a fireplace, but only sprinkle it in thin layers since it can be very alkaline. The golden rule, the one thing to remember, is the ratio. You want roughly 4 parts of browns for every 1 part of greens by volume. So for every scoop of kitchen scraps you should add about 4 scoops of shredded cardboard or dry leaves. It sounds like a lot, but this is the key to an odor-free, happy compost pile. Finally, what not to put in your bucket. This is just as important. Avoid all meat, fish, and bones. They will break down, but they will smell awful and are guaranteed to attract pests like rodents. For the same reason, avoid all dairy products like cheese and yogurt, and any greasy or oily foods. Also, steer clear of pet waste. Dog and cat poop can contain pathogens you don't want in compost that will eventually grow your food. Lastly, avoid putting diseased plants in. If you had a tomato plant with blight, don't compost it. Those spores could survive and infect your garden next year. Stick to the good list of greens and browns, and you'll have a trouble-free experience. The step-by-step process, built in your compost machine. Okay, you've got your free bucket, your hole punching tool, and you've started saving your greens and browns. Now it's time to put your compost machine together. This will take less than 10 minutes. Step 1. Prep the bucket. This is where we introduce airflow. Remember, the good microbes doing all the work for us need to breathe. That's aerobic decomposition. Without air, you get anaerobic decomposition, and that's when things get stinky. So, grab your drill or your hammer and nail. We're going to make holes in 3 places. First, flip the bucket over and make about 10 holes in the bottom for drainage. We want our compost to be moist, but never soggy. These holes let extra liquid escape. Next, drill holes around the sides of the bucket. You don't need to go all the way to the top, focus on the lower 2/3. Drill another 5 to 10 holes on each side. These are the most important holes for letting air get into the core of your pile. Finally, drill about 10 holes in the lid. This allows for gas exchange and helps regulate the moisture inside. Don't stress about the size of the holes. A standard drill bit is fine. You want them big enough for air, but not so big a curious mouse could get in. The first layer, your secret weapon against smells. Now that your bucket is ready, it's time for the first layer. This step is a must if you want a successful, smell-free composter. Before any food scraps go in, you have to create a thick base layer of browns at the bottom. Think of this as a sponge. This layer should be about 2 to 4 inches deep and will soak up any extra liquid that drains down. It keeps the drainage holes from getting clogged and creates an airy chamber at the bottom so air can flow up into the pile. For this layer, I like to use slightly bulkier browns. Small twigs, crushed leaves, or roughly torn cardboard work perfectly here. They create a sturdy foundation that won't get too compacted. Step 3, the art of layering. This is the part you'll repeat until the bucket is full. It's often called the lasagna method, and it's super simple. You have your container of kitchen scraps, your greens. Just dump them into the bucket on top of that brown base layer and spread them out a bit. Now for the most important rule of bucket composting: always, always, always cover your greens with browns. After you've added your food scraps, take a generous amount of your shredded paper or dry leaves and completely cover the greens. You shouldn't be able to see any food. This brown layer acts as a natural odor filter and keeps fruit flies away. If you ever walk by your bucket and it smells, the answer is always the same: add more browns. As you keep going, think chop and drop. The smaller the pieces you add, both greens and browns, the faster everything will break down. Microbes work on the surface, so by chopping an apple core or tearing cardboard into small strips, you're creating way more surface area for them to munch on. It's like cutting up food for a baby to make it easier to digest. I find it helpful to keep 2 small bins in my kitchen, one with a lid for my scraps, and a paper bag filled with shredded junk mail. That way, whenever I take my greens out to the bucket, I already have my browns ready to go. Step 4. A little bit of maintenance. Once you get your layering system down, you only need to manage 2 things: moisture and air. The ideal moisture for compost feels like a wrung-out sponge. It should be damp, but not dripping wet. For the most part, your kitchen scraps provide plenty of moisture. In fact, it's more common for a bucket to get too wet than too dry. If it looks really dry and dusty in there, just sprinkle in a little water and give it a mix. On the other hand, if you open it and it smells bad and looks slimy, it's too wet. The fix is to add a lot of dry browns and mix them in to soak up that extra moisture and create air pockets. The second part of maintenance is the weekly shake-up. Since we can't get in there with a pitchfork, we have to agitate it. Put the lid on tight, lay the bucket on its side, and roll it around on the ground for a minute. Or, just give the bucket a good, vigorous shake. Do this about once a week. This simple step mixes the new stuff with the old, microbially active stuff. It keeps things from getting compacted, and most importantly, it gets oxygen back into the center of the pile to keep those good microbes happy. The composting timeline: what to expect. One of the biggest questions people have is, so, how long does this take? The answer depends on a few things, but this is generally a cold composting method. It won't get hot enough to break things down in a few weeks like a giant, actively managed pile. This is a slower, gentler process, but it works just as well. Let's break down the journey from scraps to black gold. Phase 1, the filling period, first month or 2. For the first few weeks, your main job is to just keep adding layers of greens and browns until the bucket is full. You won't see a ton of decomposition yet. You might notice the contents sinking a bit between additions, which is a good sign, but the bucket will mostly just get fuller. Phase 2, the great shrinkage, a few weeks after filling. Once your bucket is full, stop adding new material. This is where the magic really starts to show. You'll go check on your bucket one day and be shocked to see the contents have dropped dramatically, maybe by a third or even half. This is the best sign that the microbial party is in full swing. The organisms are eating the materials and converting them, which causes that loss of volume. You might even feel a gentle warmth coming off the bucket. Phase 3, the transformation, months 2 to 6. This is the main breakdown and maturing phase. During this time, you just let the bucket sit, giving it that weekly roll or shake to keep it aerated. The contents will keep shrinking and getting darker and more uniform. Those distinct layers of banana peels and cardboard will start to meld together into a dark, crumbly mass. Any smells will be replaced by a pleasant, earthy scent, like a forest after it rains. Many people start a second bucket for fresh scraps during this period to create a continuous system. Phase 4, Black Gold. Months 6 to 12. After several months of patience and occasional shaking, you will open your bucket to find finished compost. You'll know it's ready when the material is dark brown or black, has a crumbly, soil-like texture, and smells rich and earthy. You shouldn't be able to recognize any of the original food scraps, except for maybe tough items like avocado pits or corn cobs. You can just toss those back into your new compost bucket to keep breaking down. The speed of this process depends on a few things. If you chop your materials small, keep the moisture just right, and shake the bucket weekly, you can get compost on the faster end of that timeline. Warmer weather also speeds things up, so a bucket outside in the summer will work much faster than one in a cold garage in winter. But don't worry about the cold, the process just goes dormant and will wake right back up in the spring. The reveal, the payoff moment, and now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the proof that this simple method actually works. This is a bucket that I filled about 8 months ago, following the exact steps I've just shown you. I haven't added anything to it for the last 6 months, I've just let it sit and given it a roll every few weeks. Ready? Let's open it up. Look at this. This is that black gold I've been talking about. Look at that rich, dark color. It's beautiful and completely transformed. There's no recognizable food in here at all. And the smell? Well, there is no bad smell. It's just this wonderful, clean, earthy scent of healthy soil. It's the smell of life. Let me just run my hands through it. The texture is perfect, light, fluffy, and crumbly. It holds moisture but it's not wet. This is what gardeners pay good money for at the store. And we made it for free, from our trash. All those veggie peels and all that junk mail have been turned into this incredible, nutrient-dense soil amendment that will make our plants thrive. This is the payoff. How to use your compost and AMP, a free bonus. Seeing that finished black gold is amazing, but the real joy comes from putting it to use. So, what do you do with it? First, you can use it as a powerful soil amendment. When you're filling up new pots or garden beds, don't use 100% compost, it's very rich. A great ratio is to mix about 1 part of your homemade compost with 3 or 4 parts of potting mix or garden soil. This will infuse your soil with nutrients and beneficial microbes. Second, you can use it as a top dressing for existing plants, both indoors and out. Just sprinkle a 1/2 inch to 1 inch layer on the soil around the base of the plant. Gently work it into the top inch of soil with your fingers, then water it in. As you water your plants, the nutrients will slowly feed the roots. Finally, if you have a simple screen, you can sift your compost to get the finest particles and use it in a seed starting mix. The gentle nutrients are perfect for giving young seedlings a strong, healthy start. But wait, there's a bonus. Remember those drainage holes we drilled? As the greens break down, they release a nutrient-rich liquid called leachate, which drips out the bottom. Some people call it compost tea. To capture this liquid gold, just prop your bucket up on a few bricks and place a shallow tray or another bucket lid underneath. This dark liquid is an incredibly potent fertilizer, but it's very strong, so you must dilute it. A good rule of thumb is a 1 to 10 dilution, 1 part leachate to 10 parts water. Use this to water your plants, and they will thank you for the immediate nutrient boost. It's another amazing, free resource from a system that cost nothing. Conclusion: if you found this simple method helpful and you're excited to turn your own kitchen scraps into black gold, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more zero-waste gardening ideas. It really helps the channel and lets me keep making videos like this one. And I want to hear from you. What are your biggest composting challenges? Are you going to give the bucket method a try? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one and would love to help you on your composting journey. So that's it. No more guilt about throwing away kitchen scraps. You now have the knowledge to take what most people see as waste and turn it into one of the most valuable resources for your garden. You can do it for free, you can do it in a small space, and you can start today with nothing more than a bucket. It's simple, it's effective, and it's something that absolutely anyone can do. Happy composting!